Good afternoon. I greet you this afternoon with the greetings of respect and thank you for joining us in this mindful community. Welcome to this day of opportunities, possibilities, miracles, and choices. It's a pleasure to be here and I'm glad. Thank you for all the shares and the views that you did last week of the piece that we dealt with, Marianne Williamson, Our Deepest Fear. How did that go for you? How did your conversations flow? Did you get to talk to anybody about what it was like to address that deepest fear that we have, to address the fears that come before that of separation and isolation and things like that? How did you have that conversation? Did you talk to yourself about that same thing? Thank you for sharing some stories. I have heard some touching stories over the last 7 days. So I thank you for sharing that with me. And whenever possible, I'm going to just try to pass some of those stories on to someone else. So let's get into our time as we begin of relaxing and breathing, our quiet moment. And here's what I'd like you to do. If you're not driving or dealing with dangerous equipment and things of that sort, or on an active duty right now of something that may be concerning someone else's life, I'm going to ask that you take a moment and assess everything that's in your immediate area, whether it's at your desk or whether it's in your car, maybe not if you're driving, in your room that you're in right now. And I'm going to ask you, after you think about that, close your eyes and see how many of the things that you can recall that you just saw. How many of the things that's in that living room of yours or that bedroom of yours, how many can you recall from memory that you either just saw or that you know you just left out of the kitchen or out of the other room or out of the other office? Take some time and reflect to try to do that. Now, you won't be able to do that in fullness right now, but in your free time, when you have a moment, test yourself. Not only is this a skill to help you relax and breathe, it's a skill to increase your ability to focus, concentrate, and remember. It will be amazing when you discover how many things are present around you all the time that you just don't give notice to. You can't recall them back because you've seen it so much, you're not even aware that it's right there. Watch how that happens. Tell me about it. Send me a note about that later, or tell me if you tried that before, how that worked out when you discovered all the things that were around you that you didn't even know was there at the time. So, the same thing is true with opportunities and there are many things that are around that people aren't even aware of because we pass them all the time. So this is just an example and a tool of being able to do that. So my phone just rang while we was doing that. I don't know if you could hear that or not. So hopefully you didn't, and it didn't disturb our conversation. Let's get into this story, our mindful moment. This story goes back to a time when men used their hands more to get jobs done using saws and axes, and women use washboards and things like that, more manual labor of doing things. The story goes back to that time. And it's a story of a lumberjack who is in a forest sawing a tree down. And he's been sawing hours trying to saw this tree down. And it's been hours and now he's getting tired. He's sweating. He's frustrated. He's not seeming to make any progress. He's fussing and he's cussing and he's carrying on trying to saw this tree down diligently and not getting anywhere. And a friend comes by and he asks him, "So what are you doing?" And in anger and frustration, the guy said, I'm cutting the tree down. That's what I'm trying to cut this tree down. So the friend who walked by, he looks at the man, he looks at the tree, and he looks at the saw. And he said, "Did you ever try sharpening your saw?" Man says, "I don't have time to sharpen my saw. I've got to cut this tree down." That's the story. The moral of it is about stopping to renew so that you can be more effective. This story is so powerful. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, use this as the seventh habit. He called it sharpening the saw, renewing ourselves. Do we take the time to renew ourselves so that we can be more efficient and effective at doing what we have to do? Let's look at it this way: the what, the why, the how, and the who. Here's the first what. What is that tree that we're talking about trying to manage and trying to cut down in our life? What does the tree represents? It represents things that we're trying to deal with, our finances, that we're working desperately trying to change, and we're still in that same financial situation that we were in before, and we're struggling trying to do that. We're talking about health situations where physically you may be trying to lose weight or gain weight or manage some kind of health condition or blood pressure or cholesterol or diabetes, whatever it is, and all your efforts, you're not making any progress and you're doing the same thing over and over again. It has to do with relationships, adult children who are now trying to take care of their parents, and that frustration of trying to manage that, the devastation of that. Talking about trying to manage loss, the loss from death, the death and loss of a mother, which I've experienced, the loss of a father, the loss of a son, a daughter, a cousin, a relative. Some of you have experienced that within this last week, within the last month, within the last year. Some of you will experience this before we connect again next week, trying to manage that loss and handle that. Trying to manage intellectual things that we're trying to figure out, maybe a class or something we're trying to study and figure, trying to manage. That's like cutting that big tree down. That's what it is. What does the saw represent? The saw is the methods that we're using, the strategies that we're using, the belief system that we have, the techniques that we're trying to create the change that we want to have. So you're using this belief system, you're using this behavior, you're using this attitude, you're using this rule, this guideline to help you manage that situation. And in spite of your best efforts, you're not making the progress you need. That's what the saw is, and that's what the tree is. What is the why? Why is it important that you even cut this tree down? Manage these things that we were just talking about. Because just like a literal tree, if you don't manage it, the roots of that tree will spill over into other areas and upset the sidewalk and the plumbing and things like that. The leaves will fall on top of your roof and interfere with the gutter. Some of you see the tree do those kind of things, damage other areas. Did you know the same thing happens when you're trying to manage relationships and it's not handled? It'll spill over into work. If you're trying to manage some health matter and it's not working out, it may spill over into finances. If you're trying to handle a financial situation and that's not managed or handled, it'll spill over into some other areas, and then things can spill out that way. And sometimes it'll cause us to lash out at people that we shouldn't lash out at. It causes us to turn on ourselves and become self-destructive and start doing things that's not for our own good because we've got something that we are not managing well. But we're still using the same method to try to get it done. So why would anybody not try to manage something like that? Who would consciously and knowingly continue to do the exact same thing, use the same method at handling situations if you see it's not working? Here's the reason. They're around other people doing the same thing. So they're around other people that's got that same tree, the same kind of saw, and they're telling them things like, that's just the way trees are. That's just the way marriage is. That's just the way men are. That's just the way women are. That's the way it is with finances and money. They're telling them do the same thing because that's the same thing their mother did, their grandfather did, and the people before them. So they're looking around at everybody using the same rules, the same belief systems, the same guidelines, and complaining about the tree instead of changing or sharpening the saw. They found comfort in familiarity, so they don't want to change. There's benefits in doing things the same way and not making progress because you can get a lot of sympathy that way. And if you resolve it, then people won't feel sorry for you. So can you believe that there are some people who would prefer to stay in an area of discomfort because they're around other people complaining about things the same way? You know, life just sucks. You know, when you're married, it's just going to be like that. Or when you're single, it's just going to be like that. Or as men or as a race, it's just that way. We complain about the tree instead of sharpening the saw. How does it look when the saw gets sharpened? What it looks like is progress. What it looks like is success. What it looks like is being able to say, you know, financially, I'm a little better off now than I was a year ago. My relationships are just a little bit better than they were a year ago. Things are improving for me in terms of being able to process that. You can see progress and you see relief and release so that you're able to feel good about it. That's what success looks like when you have renewed your soul. But let's get to the who. The story is about a man who comes along and recognizes the situation because he sees it from a different position. And when he sees it, he says, hey, maybe based on what I'm looking at, you might need to sharpen your saw. Do you have that kind of friend who ain't scared of you? Who's willing to be brave and bold enough to say, you know, maybe you want to consider a different belief, a different way of looking at things. Not that you accept anything that anybody says to you, but at least someone who is willing to care enough about you to say, maybe what you need to do is just take the day off, take a break, take a lunch break, take some time and just do something for yourself. Do you have that kind of friend who cares enough about you without a hidden agenda, without separate other matters going on with them, but they love you and care enough about you to encourage you to sharpen your saw? Do you have people like that in your circle that look out for you like that? The other side of the who is this. Are you open to receive new information when somebody suggests that you do something for your own good? Or are you so resistant to say, no, I've always done it this way. I'm not going to change. I'm just going to keep on using this same method. And I don't have time to take care of my health. I don't have time to rest. I don't have time to take a break. I don't have time to look at my finances and try something different because this is what everybody else is doing. Why should I try something different? Who are you? Are you willing and open to receive new information and suggestions that just might help you to sharpen your saw? Or are you more comfortable in your situation doing the same thing because as you look around, everybody else is making the same complaint that you are, saying, yes, it's just always like this for us? What about you? The man of the lumberjack and the saw and the tree. So I encourage you to look for an opportunity to sharpen your saw. Look for an opportunity to renew yourself, to refuel. If that means just stopping and taking a break. If it means re-examining your beliefs, the rules, the saw that you used some time ago may have worked well at that time. But as they say, no man steps into the same river twice. Either when he steps in again, the man has changed or the river has changed. The same thing possibly with that saw, that same rule, that same belief, that same guideline that worked for your great-grandparents or your parents even maybe, or even worked for you earlier, may not be working now. Take an opportunity and examine the saw that you're using to resolve the situations and manage the situations in your life before the roots of it upset other areas of your life that may be recognized by somebody else trying to come bring it to your attention. Look for that opportunity. Look for an opportunity to be that woman, to be that man who is brave and bold enough to not tell somebody else, but suggest that they sharpen their saw and renew themselves. Next, consider the possibility of what would happen if you did renew yourself, if you became sharp and effective and you improved your finances and your relationship and your health situation, consider the possibility of what your life would be like if you sharpened your saw and you moved more efficiently and more effectively in the areas of your life that's important to you. Not things that's important to me, things important to you. Imagine the possibility of what your life would be like if you worked with a sharpened saw, sharpened belief system, sharpened skills, open to receive new information to help you be effective. Consider the possibility of that. Last, just like I asked you to do earlier by closing your eyes, that you'll do maybe at another point, expect and experience the miracles that's going to expand in your journey as you become more mindful of your path, as you sharpen your saw to be able to renew and refuel yourself so you can effectively go forward. Thank you for listening. Pass this message on to someone. Pass the video, share it in your own words if you think that's best. Think about it in your own quiet time as you continue to go forward. Again, thank you for listening, and I ask that as you travel well with respect. Till the next time.